Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 74. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Wednesday, Steelers Nation, as we get one day closer to Super Wild Card Weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Buffalo Bills Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great on this Wednesday. Got some tape study in last night and looking forward to covering this week's game against the Bills for sure.
Me as well. So a lot to talk about today from the Steelers standpoint. Mike Tomlin holding his press conference, some injury updates, some practice squad moves. Let's start, Dave, with the housekeeping. A couple of practice squad moves made by the team yesterday, including signing rookie outside linebacker David Perales to the practice squad, releasing safety Nate Meters from the practice squad, with the safety group getting healthier. Of course, with TJ Watt officially ruled out by Mike Tomlin for Sunday's game, Perales will add a bit of practice squad scout team type of depth. He was with the team in training camp and on and off the practice squad throughout the season, so familiar face here for this playoff push. Also, team, bit surprising to me, at least releasing Trace McSorley, the quarterback from Penn State. Obviously, the quarterbacks, including Kenny Pickett, are healthy right now, but I thought McSorley might be a guy that would hang around, be a potential futures reserve contract option. Guess he still could be. Maybe the team told him, we'll be in touch with you in a week or so, but he is now off the practice squad and in his place. Not official by the team, but reported they're signing offensive lineman Tyler Beach, a rookie from Wisconsin who's played guard and tackle. Maybe some just O-line depth here to get them through the week. So those are the practice squad moves made yesterday by the team.
Yeah, the outside linebacker with Perales and releasing of the safety there, not overly surprising. You Watt goes down, you're going to need an extra body there. Yeah, you getting Casey and Mika hopefully back in or definitely back or Fitzpatrick continues to practice, and then you get KZ back to practice, so you don't need the extra body there. So that all that makes sense. A little bit interesting on bringing in another offensive lineman at this point. Makes you kind of wonder maybe if somebody might be a little ding there. As we had mentioned, Isaac Seumalo, that guy's fighting through some stuff right now. So maybe somebody else got a little dinged in that game against the Ravens, and they need the extra body that way. So that was a little bit interesting to see that particular practice squad move, but obviously not so much with the outside linebacker and safety positions.
Not that it's our focus right now, but do you think McSorley could come back if this team hypothetically were to lose the Bills and be on that reserve futures contract? Because with Rudolph a free agent, Trubisky status up in the air, I thought that would be a guy that you just would want to have as part of your offseason roster, somebody with some experience that had been in your system a little bit. A little surprised to see him get released.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to bring him back on a futures, right? Especially with the, everybody expected Mitch Trubisky to be out of the room come the middle of March, and obviously Mason Rudolph's not under contract for 2024. You got to have somebody out there be able to throw stuff around come OTAs and all like that. So it wouldn't be surprising, probably giving him a chance maybe to at least look around, I guess, at this time. But once again, this might all be related to what do they need right now as far as bodies go to get them through a week, as far as the card, what they call the card team, practice squad team. So he could just as easily, if if the season ends on Sunday, he could indeed be a guy that circles back on a futures deal.
And I suppose Mitch Trubisky can be a good enough scout team, card team quarterback this week to try to simulate some of Josh Allen as best as he can. So we'll see on that. Those are obviously minor moves in the grand scheme of things, but still important for us to note. From an injury standpoint, a lot more important information here. As mentioned, Mike Tomlin during his Tuesday press conference officially ruling TJ Watt out of this game Sunday against Buffalo. No really other word about potentially him returning at some point. Of course, Pittsburgh has to be still playing for that to be a possibility, but TJ Watt will not play in this game. Optimistically, Mike Tomlin is on Minkah Fitzpatrick. Hopefully, he'll come back. Tomlin saying Fitzpatrick will be limited early in the week, but sounds like Fitzpatrick has a good chance to play. Of course, he told reporters after the Ravens game he would play for any potential playoff game, which is now upcoming. And then Landon Roberts also expected to be limited early in the week with his pec injury, but he should play in this one. So really, you're just kind of watching for confirmation on Fitzpatrick. He did not mention Trenton Thompson. We'll see about his status, but as we've kind of talked about, it may be tough for him to get a hat regardless, because with Casey coming back, Fitzpatrick coming back, we presume Eric Rowe will have some sort of role for this team on Sunday. There may not really be room for Trenton Thompson to play.
Yeah, if you could turn your head and look past the whole TJ Watt situation.
Other than that, the car's running great.
Yeah. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you enjoy the play? But you're getting obviously it'd be great to see Minkah Fitzpatrick after all the games he's missed back on the field there. I don't know what you thought about the all-22 and all like that. Boy, Landon Roberts, that's a one-arm linebacker right now. He's got, I guess, kind of that harness or whatnot, right? On his left arm there. And there were several instances via end zone shots with him. One of them was there was a loose football after the play was over, and just, making sure he follows through to, in case it wasn't after the whistle or whatnot, he reaches down with just a one arm to try to pick that thing up. But he's definitely trying to play through this pec injury and is limited by that. But it will be nice to see Minkah back on the field. And I wouldn't imagine, I think you're probably going to see the usual progression of the injury report this week. Guys like a Landon Roberts on it, Sayamalu. We'll see who gets some rest early in the week and all like that. But I think by the time this thing closes out, obviously TJ Watt's ruled out, so he's going to be out on the injury report. But I would suspect that it would be pretty thin when it comes to game status designations when we get to Friday afternoon.
I agree. You would expect to see Najee Harris on the report Wednesday with the knee. He's been battling. Cam Hayward with the groin, probably make sure he's rested and ready to go. The play that stuck out to me with Roberts was one of the screens that they threw on the left side that Roberts did a great job to make an open field tackle on. But as he got up, it was a struggle for him to get to his feet. So he's a warrior. Really appreciate what he's able to contribute, but yeah, they're going to probably make him as restful and rested as possible during practice, so he's as close to full health, even though he won't be close to full health for this game against the Bills.
Right.
Let's see what else from Mike Tomlin's press conference. I think it's appropriate to put the stupid gate phrase to this, controversy or question, the depth chart situation, depth chart gate here. That Kenny Pickett is still ahead of Mason Rudolph on the team's latest depth chart. Mike Tomlin, for his final question, was asked about that, and he did not like to be asked about that. Had a pretty terse answer, we'll say. Said, "Will you feel better if we make that change?" And so people asking why is Mason Rudolph still the listed number 2 quarterback? Although Mike Tomlin confirming, although we all knew it, that Mason Rudolph will start this game against the Buffalo Bills.
I understand to some degree, because look, we pull the depth chart down every week just to look at it and all, and we know to some degree not to read a lot into that thing. Here's the thing, though. It's to me, it's easy to decipher what's going on here, especially at the quarterback position. In so many words, they're trying to protect. This is a byproduct of Mike Tomlin's hands being forced into playing the hot hand of one Mason Rudolph, right?
Sure, but when you say trying to protect, you say they're trying to protect Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, just trying to protect the narrative, not try to protect a narrative from people from running with it, but in doing so, He's getting people to run with it. Does that make sense? We all know at this point right now that Mason Rudolph's the starting quarterback of this team, right?
Right.
So then why, if Mike Tomlin's making other changes on the depth chart, then why isn't he officially putting Mason Rudolph ahead of they switched Mitch Trubisky around? Mitch is the number 3. Now look, these things are, teams release depth charts every week. They put these things in the game release packages ahead of every game that are released every week, way ahead early in the week and all like that. If you're making the effort to move Mitch Trubisky to the number 3 spot, and if you're doing the other things on the depth chart as far as filling out the form per se, then what harm would it do to you to put Mason Rudolph ahead of Kenny Pickett, being as that's technically the case right now?
Sure. I'm still, when you say they're trying to protect Kenny Pickett, what are they trying to protect him from?
Probably his psyche, and just protect him from the media and the narratives. Not so much him, but just kind of protect the whole overall picture past this season.
Yeah, my interpretation of it, and listen, I mean, I'm trying to focus on Buffalo depth charts. They are what they are. We know that Rudolph's the starter, and we'll have the whole conversation about the future with a long off season, at some point ahead. So my thought is that this is kind of a little wink and a nod that Pickett is still viewed as the long-term future of the position.
Okay, I'm terming that protecting, and we're talking about the same thing here.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if it's to protect his psyche necessarily. I don't know if it's really helping his psyche right now, but I think it's just trying the organization acknowledging that Rudolph is the hot hand and he's just a here and now guy, and that Pickett's still in their long-term plans. And that's based off Ian Rappaport before the Ravens game saying that this team still stands by Kenny Pickett, still has confidence in him. That's Mike Tomlin telling ESPN, the sideline reporter, Laura Rutledge, that Pickett is still their starter. So that's where I think it comes from. I don't know how much it helps Pickett in the moment, though.
Why do you even need to do that, though? And then, why even make the change to Mitch Trubisky then? There's a message being sent here. Maybe I didn't phrase it right there. There is a message being sent here, and it's to Kenny Pickett.
And it's saying to me that they still view Pickett as the long-term starter.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, call it whatever you want. Call it, phrase it, term it however you want to term it, but it's all relegated to sending a message to Kenny Pickett more than anything.
Yeah, I think so, and for the franchise to still have that thought and that feeling. And so, what does that mean for Rudolph in the offseason?
Do you like them? Do you like them doing that? Or no? Or I mean, I know you don't want to spend too much time on it, but I mean, obviously, it's become a talking. Look, sure. If the depth chart would have came out and Mason Rudolph's on top and Kenny Pickett's number 2 behind him, everybody's going to run down that path and say, "Oh, look, this is what they're going to make a big deal out of." It's going to get made a big deal out of either way here. And it is a byproduct of Mason Rudolph being the hot hand and Mike Tomlin's hands being held, where he's got to go that direction, right?
Can I put my tinfoil hat on for a second here and join you here, Dave? Has Mike Tomlin ever called specifically Mason Rudolph the starter? He might have done it whenever they went to him for the Bengals game, but has he actually used the word start or starter when he's talked about Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, that's a good point. He said, we're just going to put the ball in his hands or leave
stay
the
with
ball,
the hot hand, stick with Mason.
Yeah, maybe he is being very, very careful with the words. I guess we'd have to go back through the transcripts and search for the word starter or whatnot. I mean,
what did he say when Mason initially ahead of the Bengals game? What did he say? I know this is me. I'm now going down a rabbit hole I told myself I would not do, but I'm just curious because Tomlin, he's a smart guy. He understands the power of language and messaging and these things are all intentional, and his pressers are always to the players. They're never to us or the fan base. They're always messages sent to his players. So I'd like to know.
I mean, you're talking a couple of games ago now, right?
Yeah, before week 16.
Right. Oh,
I mean,
I'd have to go back and pull the transcript. Maybe you're doing that right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to maybe find one of our recent articles, but it may take a second. But just a thought that I had, because he didn't use it. I know yesterday he did not use the word actual start. He just said stick with Mason, stick with the hot hand, or put the ball in Mason's hand. That was actually I think before the Bengals game he just said Mason Rudolph has got the ball, and we'll see on Kenny's situation was kind of the way that he framed it initially.
Okay, well maybe he's purposefully being able to use his words so he can't get hung by the tongue later.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. My only other question is does the NFL not care about this, even though the depth chart is objectively wrong? There is no penalty, I guess, for this.
Oh man, you want to talk about going down another rabbit hole there? I mean, at least he's as long. I don't know the correct answer to that, but I mean, I think everybody knows who's going to be the starter. Does a team actually have to designate a starter? Is the depth chart more for media consumption? Is that why it's even released once a week? Do other teams say, is Sean McDermott sitting there saying, oh boy, I can't wait till Tuesday till the Steelers release their depth chart?
Sure.
I doubt that's the case, because obviously things can change. Somebody could get benched during the week, or somebody have a better week of practice. And does that mean, well, you guys had Chikwama Okorafor listed as the start tackle. We call foul here. You didn't start. That kind of thing. So I think it's just more of a media courtesy function more than anything. And no, I don't think you could jumble that thing however you want. I don't think you'd get in trouble with the league with it.
Yeah, I know most depth charts are not fully accurate, but for something like starting quarterback that is declared openly, it was a little bit different. But side point here, Steelers making some roster moves. They have signed punter Brad Wing to the practice squad. So that may have taken the place of Trace McSorley's spot. We're not entirely sure where somebody like Tyler Beach fits in all of that, and not entirely sure why Wing has been signed. Harvard has struggled, and so is that a sign about a change? Is Harvard injured? We're not quite sure. Is this just trying to get him on the team now to have a reserve future contract for after the season? Not entirely sure, but Brad Wing has been signed to the practice squad.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I tell you what, the way, boy, this is interesting now, because if you need, well, I mean, we'll have to wait to the injury report, see if something shows up with Harvard on the injury report more than anything, because how are you going to work your elevations if you need to get Wing up to the 53, or up to the inactive 55 this week, if you indeed have to elevate Miles Jack and Eric Rowe, right?
Sure. Could be potential IR situation. It could be somebody getting released, obviously, and we're not even entirely sure what's going on with Harvin right now. Now, Wing briefly appeared in Pittsburgh earlier this year, so there's some, and of course, he punted many moons ago for the Pittsburgh Steelers before getting traded to the Giants. So not new to the team, but the question is why now with the punter? Any punter, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this. I mean, this is a bit surprised. Well, I mean, for one, what does that do with the offensive lineman that they signed? Could that be more of a futures deal now?
Maybe, although I don't know. They're not doing futures deals because in theory, their season could go on for another month, So I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there's more practice squad moves coming.
Well, they haven't officially announced it yet, and it could be agreed to terms and not yet signed a future deal yet.
Yeah, that's possible. So we'll wait and see. We'll see if Harvin's name comes up on the injury report, not mentioned by Tomlin on Tuesday. So you think if he was dealing with something, unless it just literally happened at some freak accident, that would have been mentioned by Mike Tomlin. But also Harvin has struggled. And would they change punters for the playoff game? Though?
Sure. I wouldn't put it past them.
But you're also changing holders.
That's true too. But I mean, look, I mean, you got to have better punting.
You do. No, you do. I mean, that is critical. So we'll see. But that's the news. Brad Wing is now on the practice squad. All right, back to Mike Tomlin's press conference. Depth chart gate aside, what else did Mike Tomlin have to say that caught your attention?
Let's see what else. But that is kind of interesting about Brad Wing there. That we didn't expect to have to cover that this morning. Let's see what else did Mike Tomlin have to say that stuck out. Talked about the play that Igwebuike made and saying, "Hey, look, we would be mad if he didn't make that play, and you guys need to stop treating this like a stupid pet trick." Are you old enough to remember what stupid human trick he said? Not stupid pet trick, but that's kind of a play off of the stupid pet trick thing that David Letterman show used to have years ago. I imagine that was before your time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a little Letterman growing up, but not enough to know that reference.
Okay. I'm trying to think what else here. Mike Tomlin had to say. He had a kind of a subtle shot there at Gunnar Olszewski when talking about the Igwebuike thing there. About Najee. I thought some of the things he said about Najee were interesting. You know, he's a big back. We value big backs here. The attrition component of the season, the weather component is just teed up for guys like that. We're talking about the strong performances that he's had the last couple of weeks. Talked about the big deep ball capabilities of Mason Rudolph. A lot of praise for Stephon Diggs, and deservedly so, about him being an elite route runner. I thought it was interesting to hear him go back and talk about how Keenan McCardle and all like that, working with Keenan McCardle at Maryland a few years ago. Trying to see what else here.
Well, I think the thing about how to replace TJ Watt, you know, typically it's next man up in Pittsburgh, but to replace TJ Watt, it's next men up. And Tomlin saying it's going to be more than one guy. Of course, there's Nick Herbig, Marcus Golden, even mentioned Kyron Johnson, but it's going to be about the D-line. It's going to be about the secondary. It's a full team effort to replace, as Tomlin said, a one-of-a-kind TJ Watt.
Yeah, look, that's not surprising. We talked about how that's likely to go down here moving forward with the rotation with those three, with Highsmith, Marcus Golden, and Nick Herbig. And look, these guys know, and everybody has said it. You just don't replace him. You just try your best to have a combination that get you somewhere in the within 7-foot putting range, because you're not going to get a gimme with all that. And I think we've got a pretty good grasp of how we expect that to play out against the Bills. And look, one of those guys is going to have to make a play or two in this game.
Sure. And I think the D-line's going to have to get more interior pressure and collapse the pocket and help flush a guy like Josh Allen into, the arms of Herbig or Golden or Highsmith. They're going to have to probably send some more, again, creative blitzes and 4-man pressures, nickel pressures, off-ball linebacker pressures, some new wrinkle probably added, maybe stunt a little bit more and try to create some schematic wins as opposed to just kind of one-on-one individual wins. The secondary is going to have to probably plaster and be able to cover just a tick longer overall and make some plays on their end as well. Because I pulled the numbers and I don't have them actually in front of me, so I should probably stall for a second. But the goal for Josh Allen is to get him to turn the ball over at least twice in this game. His record, whenever he turns the ball over 0 times or once this season, is very strong. Whenever he turns it over at least twice, he's 1-3 on the season. So it's an obvious point. Make him turn the ball over, create splash plays, but specifically 2 is the magic number to try to shoot for.
Yeah, and you can't turn it over on your own end. So I mean, it does feel like this has to be a +2 tot situation here, because the Bills could obviously make it back up in the explosive play category if Josh Allen does turn the football over twice. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. And here's the thing: is he's a tough guy to get down on the ground because he's such a big body. The Steelers have played a lot more zone defense as of yet, and you even though you're not talking about. I thought it was interesting. Mike Tomlin kind of compare and contrast the mobility factor of Josh Allen during the press conference. He's not that uber twitchy athlete type of guy, but he still gets it done effectively because he's such a big guy, right? And you get a guy like that that's able to run with the football. And long story short, you're probably not going to want to play a lot of man coverage in this game against the Bills because you're going to want to keep eyes on him, and you better do a better job with contain overall when it comes to not letting him around the end. Now, I'm less concerned about Josh Allen taking off around the end than I would be up the middle, but because once again, it's not like he's all that quick and twitchy. He has shown that he can run around the end, but I mean, you go back to this last game against the Dolphins just the other day. He had 68, 65 something yards rushing or running in that game, and a couple of those yards got taken away from him because of kneel downs at the end. He outrushed their running backs in this game, I think, in totality. And what, one of those was like a third down play, right, where he had the extra effort and got the first down in that situation. That's where that guy can crush you, because you get him in a third down and long situation, he'll move the chains with his legs. So back to the outside linebackers, though. I mean, you got to get Josh Allen in those third and long situations, get him hopefully holding the football, because that's probably going to be your best case to get a sack and potentially a sack fumble.
I think the issue whenever he gets out on the edge is a little less about him running, although it's definitely a threat, but making those off-platform, out-of-structure plays, from rolling out to his right and buying time and finding somebody breaking across when the defense has to cover and plaster for 5+ seconds, which is so tough to do. So rush lane integrity, it's always a tough line to walk between wanting and really needing to get pressure, but also rushing smart and keeping him trying to play within the pocket as much as humanly possible. And those things can be tough to do. But to pull the stat on Josh Allen this season, he is 3-0 when he does not turn the ball over at all. He is 7-3 with just one turnover and 1-3 with 2 or more turnovers. The lone win being against Miami on Sunday night when he had 2 picks and a fumble. So those are the numbers on Josh Allen. Again, fairly obvious, but I think 2 is the magic number for Pittsburgh's defense to hit.
Yeah, hard to argue with that.
Anything else from Mike Tomlin? That kind of was the bulk of the press conference, but anything else that he might have said that caught your attention?
No, I think we got the bulk of it there. It'd be interesting to see what the injury report says later on today. And they are practicing at Acrisure Stadium today. I guess something related. I guess a lot of rain in the air and all like that. Probably just want to get in stadium ahead of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been a monsoon. I think their practice squad, which probably doesn't have the drainage capability that I assume Acrisure has, and so that's probably pretty waterlogged. And so they're going to go to Acrisure to practice on Wednesday. Dave, let's go to the all-22 of this Baltimore Ravens game to put a bow on that, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. When you go back and rewatch the tape, what stuck out to you?
With the Steelers offense?
Yeah, offense.
Yeah, they ran, and we mentioned this the other day, they ran a lot of split zone stuff, and I think you did a good job of taking that even further with the video that you have on the site and on YouTube this morning. A couple of the extra wrinkles that they had put in there, because we have seen this team kind of run during the second half of the season. I think specifically a lot of that Zorro toss. And for them to kind of what they what they did is to kind of build, or they did build off of some things that they put down on tape to add different wrinkles to get eyes going in a different direction there. So, and I think you did a good job of laying that out, especially specifically some instances with Connor Hayward, with him circling back and then turning what looks to potentially be a Zorro toss into a split zone run. That's something else now for offenses or for opposing defensive coordinators to have to look for going forward here. So I thought that stuck out on top of the fact that they just ran a lot of split zone. They had a lot of success with that overall. I thought Connor Hayward, and I think I mentioned this the other day, Connor Hayward played a fantastic game. overall in this game here. And that was obviously good to see. He woke up and chose violence, I think, on ahead of game day there against the Ravens. Let's see what else stuck out. I thought the run blocking was good. I thought Broderick Jones did some good stuff climbing to the second level. I thought Isaac Seumalo was good. The passing game was really controlled, as we pointed out the other day. They did a good job of kind of utilizing the shorter stuff, and when they needed a big play, obviously the first play of the fourth quarter there on that slant to Deontay Johnson, he drilled that right down the middle. And I mean, long story short, that ended up being when it goes to offense side of the football, obviously the turning point of the game.
Yeah, I thought, to your point, the layers in the split zone game, and you're right, they ran a lot of traditional split zone, which was, as you said, very effective, but some layers and kind of constraints off of that, almost this counter split zone where you have Hayward faking one way and then doubling back the other, or sending Pat Frymuth out in the flat as to kind of give a pass key to the edge guy to pull him away to allow Hayward to go up through the hole without ever having to block that end man on the line of scrimmage. Just some kind of cool wrinkles to the run game overall. But my overall takeaway, Dave, and it's one that I've had from the last couple of weeks, just the effort and strain and finish these guys show, just the offensive line, the tight ends. I think the tight ends especially, Dave, but really just taking the heart, maybe some of the comments Merrill Hodge made or just some of their poor tape. All these guys, Frymuth, Washington, Hayward, really finishing their blocks much better in the run game overall. And Washington really looks like the guy he was supposed to be when they drafted him, just the dominant. You posted some clips, Dave, of him just moving people and sticking to people and driving and really displacing them, not just, stalemating the block, but moving these guys out of their gap and widening the hole. And to me, that's been really impressive.
I think he's doing a lot better job with that first step of his, Washington, and getting himself in a better position with some of these blocks. Now, some of these other ones out in space, he's doing a good job and of just finishing them, keeping square, not letting the defender. Now, look, you're not going to find many guys on a football field that match up with him size wise, but when he. I think the thing that he's kind of struggled with is footwork and positioning when it comes to some of these blocks against guys that match up well with him from a size component. He should obviously be expected to railroad a cornerback or a safety when he gets to the second level, and he's doing that now more than ever. You're seeing that stick out on tape as well. Was that on that one bury he had? Was that defensive back injured on that play? Did he grab for the knee on that or something? I didn't want to mock the guy too hard for getting buried because he might have went down with an injury on that play there. But I mean, long story short, I think Darnell Washington has done well in with the blocking component of his game, especially in I don't know what the last 3-4 weeks overall kind of stuck out. I think Connor Hayward for what look, you're not going to line Connor Hayward up. It'd be foolish to line him up on the end of the line of scrimmages as a tight end and ask him to block a base 4-3 end. Right. I mean, he's going to lose. Sure. You're setting him up to fail. And we've talked about that a couple of times this season. But I think I believe if you go back into the podcast archives from earlier this season, I had mentioned that when it comes to stuff like split zone and things with Connor Hayward on the move, there has been a noticeable difference in his effectiveness in that. And mostly up until these last couple of weeks, you've seen that more in the cut category. And he had one of these in this game as well, too, coming across to cut the legs out. And he was effective on that. But more importantly, I think what you're seeing where he's increased or making more progress in is when he's coming across and not cutting the legs out of defenders on some of those split zones, specifically that one that ended up Najee ended up, I think, taking it the other to the right side on that play. And even though Connor Hayward did kind of bounce off of the defender there, it pushed the defender back some in that situation there. And then he's going downfield and continuing on trying to trying to pick a fight with a safety, I think, or a cornerback on down the field there. So, and then, I think, look, Pat Freiermuth when it comes to what you can expect out of him on the end of the line of scrimmage. But they are, as you pointed out, utilizing him where, okay, you don't necessarily have to have him block to get the same impact of moving a defender out in space, right? And I think you see that Rodney Williams has put some good stuff on tape as far as blocking effort goes. So yeah, I think the main takeaway as you get into this playoff game here is that the tight end position as a whole, when it comes to blocking, has really increased effort and production.
And it's a big reason why this team is running the ball as well as they have. Two quick stats for you guys. I know PFF gets a lot of hate, and understandably so, for their consistent snubbing of TJ Watt. But do you know, over the last 3 weeks, week 16 to week 18, by PFF's metrics, the best run blocking tight end in football? Do you know who that is?
You got to tell me, I guess, it's Pat Freiermuth.
It's Connor Hayward.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
good.
Which again, as you said,
I thought you were trying to aha me there.
No, but I think it's really interesting. And now, as you said, it's not like he's doing the inline blocking the way that Darnell Washington is. It's with that split zone stuff. But it was Hayward by, I think, a pretty healthy margin too. So just for whatever that's worth, I think that's a really interesting thing. But the effort, the strain shown by them is impressive.
Look, for a guy, what is he, 6 foot, 5'11"?
Yeah, he's like he's got the dating profile of 6 foot. That means he's like 5'10" and a half, I think. I
mean, for a guy his size and what you're asking him to do, he has progressed from day one his rookie season to where he is now. And like I said, if you go back in the archives, I've said, well, you know what, he's doing a good job of coming across and cutting. And giving, it's never been an effort thing with him. From day one, it's the effectiveness of what they're asking him to do. And for a while, specifically his rookie season, on these split zones, you'd see him come across, and where his most effective action would be where he would cut down the legs. Now you're seeing more than that with him on the move. And you could probably even pick out a few other things when not facing a base 4-3 end of him, basically coming out of a stance and being effective in that situation. So yeah, I mean, I thought you were trying to aha me because I haven't sorted that stuff when it comes to the tight end and PFF there. But yeah, I mean, looking back and what I've seen on the tape for specifically probably these last 4 or 5 games, it adds up what he's given you as a blocker, specifically in split zone and anything that you'd ask Connor Hayward to block out in space with.
And then the other stat, out of 13 personnel, so those 3 tight end sets, which is often Washington, Freiermuth, and Hayward, the last 2 games, so against Seattle and Baltimore, Pittsburgh is averaging 7.2 yards per carry out of 13 personnel with a run success rate of nearly 75%. And you compare that to the first weeks 1 through 16, they were at about 4.2 yards per carry, about 50% run success rate. Not bad, but these last 2 games in particular, that 13 personnel grouping has been incredibly effective. Remember, early in the season, they were really bad running heavy. It would stack the box. It would lose these blocks 1v1, and it was actually a detriment to go heavy and kind of pack things in tight. Now it's become an asset for them, and that's, I think, a large part due to the tight ends really becoming an asset as run blockers.
And if you roll back to the beginning of the year, and coming out of the bully ball narratives and all like that, what were some of the things we were saying? Boy, I hope you could probably find it on my Twitter feed somewhere about, man, I sure hope to see a lot of 12 and 13 personnel out of this group. So we got to that point now, and make no mistake about it, when I think you were good to point this out the other day, when facing a team specifically like Buffalo, because they don't, or they try to stay away from doing a lot of substitutions because of the
they're nickel team.
Right. It might be smart to try to beat them with the bigger bodies.
Yeah, and just see how they respond and see if they bring in big people and can they stop the run out of 12 and 13 personnel. We'll have to see. But it's been a real positive thing for Pittsburgh because early in the season we said don't run out of 13, like don't run out of 12, go 11 and spread things out and try to create some lighter boxes. And that's how Pittsburgh was having more success. And now I think they can run the ball from kind of any front and personnel grouping, but the tight ends and the O-line, I thought, as you mentioned, Malu might have been his best game of the season. And to do that on one good shoulder right now and just the finish and the strain and pass protection, the anchor that he showed, that the interior line did a nice job of giving a room for Rudolph to step up. There was some pressure, but it all came from the edges. It all came from the tackle struggling. The interior guys, by and large, did a nice job of keeping the depth of the pocket for Mason Rudolph.
Here's another thing, and you just got me thinking about this when talking about Connor Hayward. They have made a concerted effort the last couple of weeks to kind of get him to kind of chip and release, and then on the rollouts and get the ball. I mean, it's only like a 3-yard toss, right? But they're making kind of a concerted effort to get the football in his hands. You could probably have a little bit of fun with that now, right? Especially with as much split zone action as they've done with him. Why not now? And this would be a great build off of the thing that you pointed out, that you pointed out on film. Now you would obviously need the time to kind of set this up. You could circle him back like he's going to be part of a split zone block on the back end over there, and then instead of giving that block, just bypass on by and then get the ball out to him in space that way.
Sure. They ran a bunch of nakeds in this game. Hayward caught the one, I think, for a third down conversion. Harris had one around the goal line. I think got to the 5-yard line, moved the sticks. And so there were some, they weren't big plays, but they were still important plays, weighted down type situations. So there were some good constraint plays and nakeds to run off that kind of split zone play action type look.
And did we have the email or the other day say somebody maybe off the radar, who could maybe be a kind of an X factor, a lower rated X factor, thinking back on that question now and diving deeper back into the tape last night on both sides of the football there. Maybe you can find something a surprise or two to do with Connor Hayward.
Yeah. And again, I think it's less about him having volume, but situationally, that big key third down you might need to pick up late in the game, or to get in the field goal range or something like that, where you have a specific play designed for that moment that may be more the key than Austin or Hayward going off and having a big performance, but it may just be that one moment where somebody comes up large. Right.
I mean, look at an extra explosive play or two in this game against Buffalo, depending on how the weather goes and the game flow. If it's a low scoring game, yada yada, could make a difference in this game. Remember, they have handed the ball off to them coming across in situations as well too. Cleveland and the Raiders game last year, right?
Yeah. That was to close out, I think, both those games, I want to say. And they tried that dive against the Raiders. This year it didn't work, but that was a dive as opposed to a jet kind of play. So, yeah, that's a great point. Maybe they had something like that. It's just kind of that one, their version of kind of a trick play, which isn't really a trick play, but just a different wrinkle. I think they're going to do something new in this game, or something that we haven't seen that often. Maybe not a full-fledged trick play, but some layer, some add-on, and some sort of kind of big gotta-have-it type moment.
Can you do something maybe related with him in a wheel or something like that? You
got to find that wheel route in there somehow. Yeah. I mean, it's all wide open right now.
If they do that and it ends up an explosive play and a touchdown or whatnot, that might be something that you want to do in that other side of on the Bills side of the 50-yard line. I don't know, 35, 38-yard line, and maybe have a potential, maybe him busting one.
I think just off the top, down the seam, like he's always been a really good receiver down the seam. The Falcons game, even some preseason type stuff. We haven't seen that. So if you get a too high type look on some of those beat up backup inside linebackers Buffalo may have in this game, could be an option, but we're all just spitballing right now. We'll see. I think they're going to do some wrinkle to this. What it is, I'm not quite sure.
Here's the biggest takeaway. And I think this circles back to the video that you did. We're seeing them build off of stuff offensively.
And that is so critical.
So that's in a game that the conditions weren't right for doing a lot of stuff, maybe down the field there. So we are actually seeing wrinkles off of things that they do well, and that should be a big takeaway coming out of this game against Baltimore. And it's a good time to start seeing some of these wrinkles too, because they might need a few of those things here against the Bills on Sunday. There, did you get a chance to go back and look at the Deontay Johnson deep ball?
You know what? The incompletion or the false start, the one the reader had talked about?
Both. But I was talking about the deep ball down the left side.
I did. Yeah, that one looked close. I don't know why Deontay did not make more of an effort on that play.
So that's just not me. The ball looks like it's not in a bad spot to go get, right?
Yeah, I looked from the end zone view to try to see if there was kind of an optical illusion, but that ball is within a yard inside of Deontay's. So it was close. I'm not sure what happened.
Now look, I'm not, once again, I'm not hating on Deontay here. I just, it looks, did he lose it, in the weather? Was the ball not where he thought it might, or intended to be? Was it maybe supposed to be more of a fade? Did he just get caught up? I don't know, but it even on the TV tape live on that first thing through it kind of looked peculiar. And then I didn't have time to go pull the full in motion, the full the full live shot video of it during the game and all like that, but I did post a still shot of where the ball actually landed. Not that that's the best way to do analysis on that thing, but I wanted to get something up to kind of, more than anything, remind myself to go back and look at that. But looking at it on the All-22, put it to you this way, I don't know if I think today might be the day that Deontay meets the media. I would just kind of throw out a question: what happened on that early deep ball to you? Did you lose the football, or what happened on that play? Because it did look like it was a lot closer. That could potentially, I mean, you're talking about early in the game. Mike Tomlin says, well, it makes more difference what you do later in the game, but all those things, in my opinion, add up overall. But I was just curious about that. What about the potential false start on the touchdown that the listener pointed out?
Yeah, honestly, I forgot to go back and check that component of it. So did you go back and
I mean, it's just I didn't come away with any more than what I had said the other day. It just looked like a little slight kind of lean forward there. And you'd have to go around the league and see how many times something even remotely close to that was called. I didn't find it egregious enough to be called.
Just want to be careful, because the head ref this week is Carl Cheffers, who called the false start, or the offsides, I should say, on Kadarius Toney, which was, to be clear, the right call. I don't know why there was such a debate about it. It was clearly the right call. That's all that matters. But anything like that, you want to be careful to wide receiver alignment, movement related type matters.
Okay, good point.
One last note here for the offense: Broderick Jones, as you said, strong run blocker. The pass pro, though, Dave, has really, I think, been a struggle for him. I don't know if there's times where he's expecting help inside, but he's getting beat to the inside quite a bit. His punches are poor. He's not using his independent hands well. He's kind of punching with just one hand. I think he's oversetting, unless, again, he's expecting some inside help based on the center slide. I'm not entirely sure. But even that, losing the edge, dropping his eyes. I mean, I think he's really been rough in pass protection.
Yeah, I agree there. And going to be interesting to see, is this related to him and the side he's playing on, or what have you? But at least the run blocking aspect of a component of his game has been there.
Defensively, what stuck out to you on tape when you go through the All-22 of the Steelers-Ravens game?
Eric Rowe really stuck out on tape.
Same. I was going to go there. Some of those cover three downhill, like just his closing speed, his hit power, kind of working from his hook zone. That dude packs a punch.
And you hit on it, specifically working downhill. He can still move, man. Point A to point B, downhill. I think he reads things really well. I think his tackling really stuck out in this game overall as well too. But that's something from going from TV tape to All-22 that that really jumped off the tape to me was the play of Eric Rowe moving downhill overall. I pointed out you really get a good sense of how much that left arm is bothering Landon Roberts in this game. I thought Mark Robinson had a nice game for the amount of snaps that they asked him to play in this one. I thought Cameron Hayward was kind of impactful in the middle of the line in this game. That stuck out. That really didn't pop off the TV tape. Trying to think what else here popped out to me. Obviously, a lot of zone in this one. That was kind of to be expected. On the touchdown to Likely, you basically have a 4-vert situation against a cover 3. Levi Wallace, I think he kind of went for the interception on that at around the 10-yard line there. If you're going to go after that, you better get the pick, or you better make enough impact with the defender that you knock him down. So not only did he miss the pick and miss the tackle at the 10, then Patrick Peterson follows it up with a miss too. So you're going to have situations where a team makes a play on you and has the right call against the right defense, which was the case with that. Okay, let him complete it, but he should have been down at the 8. They should have got him down at the 8 or 7 yard line, and at least leave the blades of grass to defend, because you never know what can happen, because this team has shown that they've taken the football away, not only in the red zone, but in a low red zone on top of that. So at least you live to fight another down in that situation there. That's what stuck out to me top of my head. TJ Watt just really, really good before going down. Obviously, that's not a surprise there. Alex Highsmith held quite a bit. Legitimate holds in this one. That's another thing that stuck out.
And how many touchdowns has this defense allowed the tight end since really the Cardinals game? It's been an uncomfortable number. And you look at what the Bills have. I think their tight ends have 11 tight ends or 11 touchdowns receiving this year. And Dalton Kincaid has been a real big target for them. Dave, the only rookie tight ends in NFL history who have more receptions than Kincaid's 73 this season are Keith Jackson, Jeremy Shockey, and Sam Laporta this year, the rookie from Detroit. So the fourth most receptions by a rookie tight end in NFL history. So Buffalo knows who to attack, where Pittsburgh's weakness is. Now, Minkah Fitzpatrick comes back, and I think he's going to be on Kincaid a lot, and a lot of third down, got to have it, weighty type moments. And so that's going to be much needed for sure. But we're going to probably see Buffalo go after those tight ends quite a bit in this game.
Something else, now come to think of it, looking at my notes here when talking about defense, that I didn't notice on the initial, TV viewing is the usage of Killebrew in this game. And I thought he actually, for what they were asking him to do, I thought Killebrew did a good job.
That tackle he had on Huntley on that final drive to keep Huntley in bounds and really kill a bunch of clock there was, I thought, really critical. Yeah, I think he's done a nice job. I do think Casey's going to get the work over him in this game, but I think Killebrew has been rock solid.
Yeah, look, that's not ideal having to have him play a lot of snaps. And I didn't realize how many he had actually played until really seeing the snap count, then actually having him stick out on the all-22 end of it. But I thought for what they asked him to do in this game, hell, he played 25 damn snaps in this game on the defensive side of football. And I think you're right there. I think that's something that you can do. You can now alleviate those snaps with potentially a guy like Casey now. But for what they asked him to do, he stuck out on tape in a positive way, I thought.
I think Larry Ogunjobi has put on better tape in recent weeks. Pass rush, run game, probably a bit more than pass rush, but I think he's been better overall than kind of that real ugly lull he had mid-season. And then, to go back to Rowe, even earlier before that forced fumble, he tried to punch the ball out, attacking a pile, a little bit before that actual forced fumble. And so just the extra effort, the details, the ball searching. I think Pittsburgh's a strong downhill defense. I do think out in space and team speed are concerns in this one. So Do we know if Gabe Davis is going to play? He's got the PCL sprain. I think he's still up in the air right now.
Yeah, I think McDermott's going to do a good job of keeping that under the rug. I mean, we'll just have to probably watch the injury report and see how much. Probably going to be, I would think, limited all week, and then they'll probably end the week with him listed as questionable there. But I wouldn't think that he's going to be 100%. And let's assume he does dress and play and is not 100%. That's a big factor, especially the way he killed him in that game last time these two teams met. So that could play into this game, even if he suits up, I guess. But I don't think I don't get a sense that we're going to get a good sense of where he is. We'll see what I think McDermott probably talks today. And obviously today's the first day of the injury report and all. So we'll just have to watch that.
Sure, but the Buffalo Bills' speed will be something to watch, and how much of a factor, if any, Davis will be is going to be, as you said, something to monitor. Any final thoughts here, Dave, from the All-22?
Yeah, you talk about Ogunjobi. This would be a great, a good game for Ogunjobi to really come alive as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I know we talk about, and rightfully so, Herbig, Golden, Highsmith having to step up to replace TJ Watt, and they do. There's no question about that. But the D-line has to get some more pressure. I think Benton's got to convert some of these pressures to sacks, and Hayward's got to be able to collapse the pocket and help flush Allen out to make life a little bit easier without TJ Watt.
It would be a great help equalize things if you could get more in the pass rush game from your interior guys in this one, and specifically if you're getting into mandatory, more than likely second and long, third and long type drop back situations for sure. If we end up talking about on Monday a Steelers win over the Bills, I won't be surprised if we're talking about do you believe the interior pass rush that the Steelers had in this game?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, Dave. All right, any other final thoughts? Anything else that we're missing that we didn't cover that we should address here before we start closing out today's show?
Watts had a nice Armand Watts had a nice snap or two in this game. He's giving you something here and there in the few snaps that he's being asked to give you on defense. So I thought there was a little bit of that. Look, you can't give up the big play in this one. You got to make sure you guard. It's going to be hard enough with the way that Bills running game is. I mean, it's almost a pick your poison kind of thing, isn't it? You cannot let the Bills run on you first and foremost, especially if it's a snowy weather kind of game. So that's obviously your first takeaway there. Second, to me, is if you're gonna let the tight ends of theirs eat, you better not let them eat large amounts at one time. And
have some of those blades of grass to defend.
Right.
As well. So I think, those weighty moments, you can have the tight end making that big play on third down that just breaks your back.
Right. I mean, you got to limit the explosive plays. I mean, Diggs is already going to be enough of a challenge to kind of control they've got some talented wide receivers over there. So anyway, and not having Watt obviously is a big deal.
And listen, Joey Porter Jr. is going to have to play his best game because, he's at his best. He's had a really good season. I think he's gotten better. I think he's a better tackler, better zone defender than he's currently given credit for. He's not just a press man kind of a guy, but the guys who have given him the most amount of fits have generally been some of those real crisp route runners. Amari Cooper, for example, and Diggs is right up there. So it's not going to be, when you're facing a DeAndre Hopkins, it's a bit easier overall, I think, to, even though he's not a crisp route runner, but you saw DK Metcalf get some separation, turn Porter around a bit. Whenever it's kind of a street fight and these guys are battling, Porter wins most of the time. But whenever it's a bit more open air out in space against some of these guys that can shake you and create separation, that's when Porter's had his worst moments. And Diggs is definitely a guy that can shake you and create some space.
I thought they did a phenomenal job of tackling overall in this game. Sans the touchdown to Likely, which I think Levi Wallace should get credited for a missed tackle. I don't see them crediting Patrick. The other thing was that explosive run that they had in the game. Patrick Peterson's got to do a better job of breaking down and make sure he makes that. If he, that was already going to be a 10, 12, 13-yard run anyway, but Patrick Peterson he didn't do a good job breaking down to try to make that tackle in that situation.
I thought he came to balance too early was my personal takeaway.
Okay.
About 5 yards, he started breaking down and kind of left Edwards with the ability to kind of go whichever way he wanted to. So I actually
he got turned around. In fact, his back got turned around to the whole play on that one.
Yeah, because he was kind of like stopped whenever Edwards was within 5 yards of him, and that gave Edwards kind of the two-way go. I can go either way, and Peterson kind of was his feet were generally stopping. So things to work on. Is he going to play safety this week? Is it going to be some more corner? Tomlin said that all options on the table right now for safety, corner. It's a good problem to have because they've not had those options in quite some time.
All I'll tell you is Eric Rose got to be on that field for a chunk of plays. That's all. And obviously Minka's got to be out there as well, too. I think Eric Rose done enough in this short amount of time that he's got to be on the field. So you could end up seeing a lot of multi-safety looks in this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to take advantage of their newfound depth and availability with guys like Fitzpatrick and Casey.
And look, I mean, for the injuries that this unit has had this season at the safety and at the and suspensions along with it at the safety and inside linebacker position, I mean, they have duct taped this thing together as best as they possibly could. And actually the last couple of weeks have you've seen the communication kind of be okay. I don't want to go out of my way because there's been some negative involved here, but I think for what the hand that they've been dealt with, at least these last couple of 2 or 3 games, they've done a very good job of duct taping this thing together.
They have. Some people say they want to fire Terrell Austin. I'm like, why? What has the defense done so poorly that would require the firing of the defensive coordinator? But I think a lot of credit, and I think Cam Hayward made this point on his podcast today, credit goes to Aaron Curry, the inside linebackers coach, in his first year, then Grady Brown. Like, so you talk about the changes at inside backer, which is true, but the changes at safety in the secondary. And I think Grady Brown's done a great job of trying to keep that group together and you said kind of MacGyver and duct tape this thing and make it work. So do not be surprised if a guy like Grady Brown gets some DC looks once these head coaching slots are filled around the NFL.
And look, you got the ultimate test of having with TJ Watt out. I mean, there's not enough duct tape or what's that stuff, Flex Seal or whatnot.
Oh yeah.
You better have a gobs of that to try to overcome that huge hole there. But I think you want to talk about takeaways overall when it comes to the defense once again, and the injuries and suspension and the cards they've been dealt here. I think the last couple of weeks they've done a good job of overcoming that. Props to, and Mike Tomlin's gone out of his way to praise Miles Jack and Eric Rowe, and I think that's very, very deserving. I mean, Landon Roberts for playing with one arm. Michael Walker has not played great, but at least he's not sticking out so negatively, at least these last couple of games on tape. We mentioned at least Miles Killebrew. You hate to have to see that guy have to play so many defensive snaps, but it was actually not bad on tape against the Ravens. And who else?
I think Sullivan has done a good job with the nickel spot.
Chandon Sullivan's guy that's been more positive the last couple of weeks there. And, we'll see how it goes against Buffalo.
All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right. Let's see.
Do we have anything in email?
Yeah, I got
today?
some here. I sorted it wrong here.
Nope, that's okay. Yeah.
Bryce says, bring on the Bills. Hey, guys, right now it's all Bills all the time. Steelers better be ready for a lot of 4-4 fronts and AA mugs this week. This, to me, is the perfect week, even with the weather, for Faulkner and Sullivan to finally break out more first down play action calls to keep Buffalo honest. Look, you're not going to run play action 32 times a game in this one. I mean, could they stand to do more under center stuff 1 or 2 times? Sure. Absolutely. You go back to I can't help to think about the last couple times that they've faced the Bills with some of these pressures that they've sent that the Steelers had problems handling. Alex?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and think about some of the past games, but I think you're right about that. And I know Buffalo's always had a really good game plan to minimize and mitigate Pittsburgh's rush. And that's, of course, with TJ Watt. But I think about some of the chippers they would have, the wings they would have out there on third down to really slow those guys down. So they've always seemed to me at least to have a good game plan against the rush. And Josh Allen's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in football. We kind of don't think about that because we think about, okay, he has a bunch of big plays. He probably gets sacked a bunch too, kind of like Lamar, but he's only been sacked 24 times this season, 5 of which came in the week 1 opener against the Jets. Since then, he's really, now pressures are different. Obviously, I don't have the numbers on that, but they've actually done a good job of avoiding those negative plays in terms of sacks in the pass game.
All right, Joe from Phoenix writes in, TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year. Hey, guys, great work again so far this season. Your tireless work is appreciated. Do you have stats on how many holding calls TJ Watt has had on him? More specifically, how many prior to the press conference where he mentioned the NFL having something against him, and how many after? If he doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year, I believe it'll be because of those remarks he made. Do you think him speaking out has any bearing of how the voting will play out? Maybe him squawking too early and he will win the award. It sure seems as though he's been better than the others, most notably Myles Garrett, blah, 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 sacks, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, TD, intercept, blah, blah, has dropped into coverage like he is a superhuman. He has simply played better than the others in the running. Look, we talked about this the other day, specifically, PFF is catching a lot of hell, and because of how they the amount of leverage that they give to the pressures and all like that, and the win rates, and I think specifically the win rates, and all like that. The advanced metrics of it, you can understand where they're coming from. Look, I've said this a lot over the years. We subscribe to PFF. I like a lot of what PFF does. I think they get a lot of what they do right. It's good to look. You should never judge things just by stats. Period. It is good to look at them as a basis, as maybe a starting point to maybe go see where they're coming from on some certain things. Are they foolproof? Absolutely not. When it comes to all their stuff, look, they have changed stuff because of things we pointed out before in coverages and stuff like that. They get things wrong. It's impossible to know 100% intent on every given play. You're not going to do it. That's what makes grading, things with movement. It's a lot different than baseball. When it comes to that kind of stuff there, especially advanced analytics. Specifically when it comes to Watt in the holding calls, there was the uptick. What did we say? He had drawn like 2 or 3 holding calls. I forget.
Sounds right.
And then he get a couple, like the game or two after he talked about not getting the holding calls. But I think you could say the same thing with Parsons and Garrett and all like that. It takes a lot for these premier edge guys to draw a holding call. Period.
Yeah, I mean, Parsons, I think in particular, is really almost never draws a holding call, which is pretty crazy. So I don't know what it is. I don't have the exact numbers. I'm not even sure who tracks that or if that gets tracked. But
I mean, it does. I mean, we've got the info. I think I have to log back into Sports Info Solutions here. I don't know where I have the window pulled up here, but look, if you look at all the premier edge guys, they're probably down as far as drawn holding calls go. But in the same breath, Watt did. Was it 2 in 1 game a couple of games ago?
Yeah, against the Bengals game, right? Because he got the sack on the one he got held, and then I think there was a holding call maybe later. There was a false start, I know, on Jonah Williams. So I think it was the Bengals game.
Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick while you kind of filibuster here, maybe.
Yeah, so a little bit later today, the players will talk. Injury report comes out, and then Friday will be a normal week. So Friday will be the final day for the injury report. We'll have hopefully a Bills beat writer on for that show, and I'm running out of things to talk about to stall to try to find those data, that data on T.J. Watt. I know again you said Highsmith probably held a couple times in that game. Again, I think that dip and rip move. There's some, I think, almost carve out either officially or unofficially in the rule book that allows that to look like a hold, but it's not actually a hold in the way that the refs interpret those things that happen with James Harrison. Everybody knows. So sometimes these things can be a little deceiving, but there's certainly some times where Watt and Highsmith and others have been held and the refs have missed it.
All right, I have Sports Info Solutions has TJ Watt down for 3 drawn holding penalties. I think I wonder if I want to say that he got 1 or 2 a couple of games ago. So maybe we were talking about him only having 1 up. And no, I think the number that we had was like it was 3 over the course of the last 2 seasons or something going into that game where he got 2, just a couple of, maybe that's how we had kind of phrased that thing. So let's look at Myles Garrett real quick and see what he has on, according to Sports Info Solutions, on holding penalties drawn. He has 4 on the season. Myles Garrett does. Who else you want me to check? Parsons?
Yeah, I think Parsons might be maybe 1. It's a really low number, at least from what I've seen on Twitter. I've not really sat down and researched it, just kind of read some tweets and comments.
He has 2 on the season.
2. Okay.
How about Max Crosby, another reputable edge rusher? Seems like he probably has a few more.
Yeah, I could buy that.
He has 2 on the season, Alex. So there you go. I mean, these guys aren't drawing across the board without pulling, the Bosas and spending the time to do all that. It does seem like it takes a lot for these guys to draw the holding penalties out on the edge there. As far as his comments impacting the voting, my faith in humanity, which there's probably not at 55, is probably not as much coming out of me as most. I would like to think that they wouldn't hold that against him when it comes to the voting. Plain and simple, I think it comes down to Garrett and Watt. If Watt gets it, you're going to have a huge the Cleveland Browns fan base is going to go absolutely bonkers, and PFF might go bonkers as well, being said how in so many words they have put it out there that Watt won't win it and Garrett will. On the flip side, if Garrett wins it, you're gonna see an onslaught of all the Watt brothers and Steeler Nation saying that he got robbed.
Yep, that's how it's going to be for this year and probably all future seasons. I don't think the comments are going to be used against him. I don't think the people that vote remember these comments at this point. They cover their own teams and national beats and those types of things. And those comments were made weeks ago and really didn't generate a ton of national press. Locally, sure, but not really nationally. Wasn't this huge talking point the way that other Steelers-related things like Pickens and Deontay were. So those comments have probably been long forgotten by the AP voters.
Lane writes in on Kenny Pickett. Hey, Dave and Alex, happy playoffs. I love everything y'all have done on the show and have been a listener for years. Obviously, at this point, Mason is a starter and seems that he will be throughout the postseason with the exception of an injury. However, would it be worth considering starting Pickett as Mason has already had his chance in 2019 when Ben went down and proved to be a backup? Wait a minute here. Let me reread this. Obviously, at this point, Mason's a starter. However, would it be worth considering starting Pickett as Mason has already had his chance in 2019 when Ben went down? Although Mason has done a great job so far, he's not done anything special, he writes, and is relying heavily on the run game. Lane, I disagree. I think Mason's done a great job of going through progressions, and some of these, specifically some of these slants that have hit for big, you got to give him credit for. I just think overall Mason has been. Look, I don't care how far you're throwing the football down the field or not throwing the football down the field, to go 18 of 20, says something. He really his first and I guess really only interceptable ball was that one early in the Ravens game there. And you can say woulda, coulda, shoulda, and all like that. That might be a pick six if that boy gets to that ball, but he didn't. But I think for the most part, this offense is moving with confidence with him at quarterback, and he has connected on a couple of deep balls down the field, and he has the more of the threat. And Mike Tomlin talked about this, the deep ball arm talent. If it's a game that's not impacted by weather, you have to respect the ability of Mason Rudolph to push the football down the field, I think. Now, could all this come unraveled in one game against the Bills? Absolutely. But I don't think I don't think there's any argument right now, as Lane tries to maybe suggest, that maybe worth considering Pickett over Mason for this game specifically against the Bills. I don't see how you can make an argument to go back to Pickett right now.
And you want to talk about losing the locker room. If you go back to Kenny Pickett with the way that Rudolph is playing and the way that they're producing, listen, 2019 was an eternity ago. That was essentially his first year, technically his second, but first year playing. And so who cares? That those are, early career struggles that happen to a lot of guys. All that matters is the here and now. And Rudolph's been the best quarterback of the three this season. The way that I kind of think about it in my head, Dave, in terms of the quarterback play this season is Mitch Trubisky was losing you games. Kenny Pickett was not losing you games, but he was not winning you games. And Mason Rudolph is actually winning you games. Now, he has been certainly aided by a really healthy and strong run game, and that's important for any quarterback. But Rudolph is doing more than just, quote unquote, game managing. He's really making some plays for the reasons you mentioned. So Rudolph is winning games. Pickett was not losing you games. Trubisky was losing you games. That's kind of the summary of how I would describe the quarterback play of the three guys that have started this season.
Good point. This is a long one from Randy. I'm not going to get through all this, Randy. I apologize. I'll pick out bits and pieces here. I see the Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett situation as a scaled down version of Bledsoe and Brady. Decision given the benefit of hindsight of their careers. As a result, I believe only a Super Bowl from Mason would solidify him being the unquestioned starter. Look, that would be a great problem to get into. Oh boy, Mason's coming off of a Super Bowl. And let me tell you, the only way, if you did that, the only way you would keep Mason in Pittsburgh through the offseason would be with a franchise tag.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Let's hope we get to that point and have to have those discussions. But certainly Rudolph's, market value has shot up. And if he can pull off the upset in Buffalo on Sunday, then, he's not going to be cheap to sign for anybody this offseason.
Let's see if I can get to one more here from Garrett writes in and from Virginia. Not will, but should Mike Tomlin get Coach of the Year consideration from the voters with the way the defense has been decimated due to injury throughout the year, blah, blah, blah. Hayward, Fitzpatrick, inside linebacker, safeties, now Watt, with large turnover in personnel from a season ago, having three quarterbacks at the helm, and how this team was basically left for dead three weeks ago. I should think the way he kept the locker room together and got the best out of the group, including those who came out of retirement down the stretch, should be noteworthy. By the way, if I read the standings correctly, the Steelers had the best strength of victory. Didn't I point that out the other day? Of any team in the playoffs except the Ravens, he says there. But look, Garrett, I could have been persuaded for Mike Tomlin to get some Coach of the Year consideration had this team not lost to two what were they at the time? 2-12 teams, right? The Cardinals and
the 2-10 teams,
yeah. The Patriots, and then I think once that happened, I mean, look, they responded from it, and Mike Tomlin even said during his press conference on Tuesday that they basically have been in the playoffs the last 3 weeks, which they have. I just think when you even as decimated as this team was, to lose those two games the way they lost those two games to those two teams, at that point, the coach of the year considerations, in my opinion, went out the window.
I don't think he would even win it within his own division. Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland is probably going to get the award, and understandably so, for the 4 quarterbacks they went on, and they had a bunch of injuries, and to persevere and have a better season, better standing, better finish, better record than Pittsburgh. I think it'll go to Stefanski, and deservedly so.
All right. There's a lot of emails in here, but we're not going to have time to get to them at all. If you think something can be addressed on the Friday show, recirculate it back through the email machine. We just don't have the time to get to all of them today. Anything else you'd like to add? Any late breaking news here or anything, Alex, before we get out of here?
Nope, nothing yet. So we'll come back on Friday and get you ready for the playoff game.
Yeah, we already have Bill's beat writer scheduled. Don't want to jinx it or anything, but that looking pretty good for Friday. We'll start getting hard and heavy into the Bills All-22 tape and give you as thorough of a breakdown as we can of that game during the Friday podcast there. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit that ad-free button wherever you find it in the navigational bar. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.